Your Comedy Minute. I'm Scotty T. I'm here with Zahan Khursigara. Did I say that right, Zahan?
Yeah, perfect.
Oh my God. Hey, it's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Are you now? And I wrote some stuff down. You're in Toronto, Canada,
Yeah, I'm just outside Toronto.
Ontario. What I never understand that. Toronto, Ontario. What is it?
Yeah, Toronto, Ontario. Ontario is the province.
Okay. I've been to Toronto.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've been there, and I actually have written down Brad Goss. Do you know Brad?
I don't know him well, but I know him. I did
Okay.
some shows with
He's been
him.
on the show.
Okay.
Brad is a crazy character.
He is. He writes some crazy books.
Oh yeah. Well, let's start. Let's start. Uh, we're, I'm guessing you weren't born and raised in Canada.
Yeah, I was.
Really?
Oh, yeah, I was born in Toronto, raised here.
Okay. That's great. That's great. So do
I,
you
I'm
do
very
you
Canadian. I play hockey. I curl.
oh okay. Do you get down to the United States? Do you get around a little bit?
Well, my sister lives in LA.
Oh, okay.
I tend to go there more than anywhere else in the USA nowadays.
Okay.
When I was
Well, and
younger.
I apologize for people that don't know. We've never met.
Right.
I only know what I can find on the internet about you.
It's not that much.
No, well, I did. I mean, you've got a big show coming up, Laughs on the Lake.
Yeah.
That looks like that's going to be a great show for you,
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We got a 500 person party boat.
right? Yeah.
We've got a headliner coming in from New York, and should be a lot of fun. We'll do an hour and a half of comedy, and then 2 hours of just drinks and partying.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm good with drinks and partying. That's something I'm good at. Well, let's start. When did you decide to start doing comedy?
I decided I want to get into comedy just before COVID,
Okay.
right? And I did a class, and
Okay.
we did two in-person classes, and then COVID happened, lockdown, and we
Right.
went online. And then I finished off the course that I was doing, and kind of just stopped doing comedy because it was COVID. It was a tough time to
Yeah.
start doing, right? But then about I guess in November or October, I did the same class again. We finished it in November, and since then I've been going hard 3, 4 days a week.
Okay. Open mics.
Open mics, book shows,
Okay.
bit of not much traveling yet, but a little bit just
Okay, well let's go because I kind of go and I ask a lot of the same questions because I'm curious about comedians. The first time you went up on stage, what was that like?
the first time I went on stage was probably 5 years ago.
Okay,
Just a random open mic or an
and how
amateur
did it
night.
how did it go?
Went pretty good.
Okay,
Pretty good. I mean, I wasn't nervous.
okay,
So I was just, I got up on stage, did my thing, and went pretty decently. When a local touring comic that I'm friends with came to the show, and he told me, he said it wasn't the worst first time I've seen. So
you know what? I always have a line for something, and whenever I hear that, for a fat girl, you don't sweat much.
right.
Wasn't the worst I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And if I understand you right, October, November, you came back and now you're doing it again
Yeah.
and you're going hard.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you feel like now, and again, I pardon my ignorance, I'm stupid as hell. Are you getting better all the time? Every show's better?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hosting a show as well, so that gives me a lot of time to work out new jokes and
Okay.
with crowd work and that sort of thing, which is what I really want to focus on.
Okay. Well, you want to do a little bit? You want to do a little? I don't want to put you on the spot, but you want to do a couple bits?
Yeah, I could do a couple of jokes.
Sure.
Dirty jokes are good.
I don't give a shit, sugar. Whatever you want.
All
It's
right.
your comedy minute, man. You want me to do something? You want to just like lay the groundwork so you know how low you can go.
All right, let's go. See what you got there.
What do you give a dead baby for his birthday?
What's that?
A dead puppy.
There
There you go. How's
you go.
that?
It's good.
Now we laid the groundwork, and you can just there. That shows you can go any. I could do another really bad one. One more.
Another one. Why not?
What's black and blue and doesn't like to have sex?
What's that?
Woman locked in my basement. There, 2 for 2.
Knocking them out of the park.
Hey, I'm like a blind guy at an orgy. Go ahead, man. Hit me with something. Hit me with some funny shit.
All right. The other day I was talking to my mom on the phone
Right.
while having a wank and taking a shit at my neighbor's wife. People say men can't multitask.
I love it. I love it. Made me think of another one. Go ahead, do another one.
Another one. I'll do a
Sure.
little bit I've been working on. So as I start off. So, women always go on about how bigger is better. They want bigger and bigger. So why the fuck
Right.
do they get so excited when someone writes their name on a piece of rice? But don't worry, ladies. I'm hung like a black man. Age 2. Age 2. They say that that retards have the biggest dicks. All I have to say to that is, but you know what you're supposed to. I know you're supposed to call them mentally challenged, but I mean, I don't feel good about that. You don't call a midget vertically challenged because that's a bit of a reach. I prefer to call them blowjob height. My perfect threesome would be a midget and a giant, so I could have one going down on me while I go up on the other one.
Oh, good Lord.
I just
That's some
wrote that
great,
stuff last week for the
that's some
show.
great stuff. When you started with mom and wanking, and you're gonna find this with me the more we hang out.
Yeah.
People tell me a joke, then one goes into my head.
Hmm.
And you said about mom wanking, and this one I kind of hold this with a badge of honor because my brother doesn't talk to me anymore. I did a couple grandma vagina jokes. And here, I'll do one for you. I'll do this one.
Right.
There were a couple that sent him off the deep end. What's worse than going down on your grandmother?
What's that?
Banging your head on the lid of the casket when you're coming up. When you said about mom and wanking, good Lord. That tells me you and I are cut from the same loin, man.
Yeah, well, you know what? All my material is super clean.
Is it?
Yeah, for the most part, I have a super clean set that I do. Because when you go to these comedy classes and stuff, they
Sure.
build out a clean set. That way you can do corporates and this and that. But then you do start doing a lot of rooms full of college kids.
Yeah.
And they don't really want to hear jokes about your wife and kids and
Right.
the coffee table or whatever.
Yeah, and we it's funny you bring it up because you are a father. You're a home builder, a father, and a comedian. I saw you on a podcast.
Yeah,
What's it called? The Pillow Talk podcast.
yeah.
And that's how he introduced you.
That's how he introduced me. That's right.
Yeah.
I'm
Because I
trying
didn't want to
be
do
a
that. I
father.
wanted to lead with comedy. You're my guy, man.
Yeah, I'm just trying. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get out of home building and into comedy.
Yeah.
A lot more fun.
Well, I mean, you got to
Too
put,
many idiots and just as
you know,
many
you,
jokes.
if you're a father, you got to take care of the kids and take care of the wife, and so you got to do that. And hopefully, I know you said you're starting a podcast, and I will come on that for you. I don't know that it'll help, but I'll try.
Yeah.
There's some things I can tell you after we get done. I will stop the recording, to try and help you with social media because there, to me, there's like two parts. Well, when I say there's two parts, I have stand-up comedians that come on that are just stand-up comedians. And then I have what they call content creators or digital creators that are TikTok, Instagram, and they make videos. And they're like two different, you know what I mean? It's like two different things. I mean, and I think if you can blend the two, fantastic. But you have some old school guys that are just stand-up comedians and they don't do any of that.
Well, I was watching the Hot Breath podcast with Joe
Sure.
Byers.
Yeah.
I saw Ian Begg on there.
Right.
That for the longest time he was just that old school comedian. He would never put anything online.
Right.
And he started to get depressed because he's like his career wasn't moving. And then he hired somebody, some young kids, start putting everything online. He's like, it just blew up.
Yeah.
Can't keep shows, right? So you have to have that nice balance, right? And on the other side, I have friends locally. One of the guys who does comes to my show regularly, Joe Benedictus. He has a YouTube channel with I don't know how many people, but that's a lot of followers on it. And it's a Canada versus America kind of thing. So we're close to Buffalo over here, right? So he goes down to Buffalo all the time, meets up with an American friend of his, and they compare like a restaurant in Buffalo to the Canadian version of it. And
Right,
think tons and tons of views, but nobody comes out to the shows to see him because they don't see him as a comedian. They see him as a YouTuber,
right, right, right. Yeah,
right? So
it's a slippery slope, and if you're, there's huge age difference between us. I'm 61. I don't know how old you are, but and I grew up on the old school one-liner, Rodney Dangerfield, Henny Youngman, those kind of comedians. And I don't really care for the TikTok, Instagram, particularly some of them are funny, but I don't like the setup stuff where it's coming, the guy's gonna, or I don't like the prank bullshit where they're putting buckets over people's heads and stuff
yeah,
like that. That
I was
that
never
shit.
into that stuff. Even the Jackass kind of shows that used to be there in the late '90s. I was
Yeah,
never. I was a big Rodney Dangerfield fan though.
I met Rodney.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Do you want to know that? Do you want the story or not?
yeah. Tell me the story.
I used to work in the music business. I worked for RCA Records. I worked for BMG. That's how I ended up in Toronto. I was at a BMG convention for 7 days or something. We were in Beverly Hills and at the Beverly Hilton. And there was a lot of, Richard Gere, Jay Leno. There were all these big stars walking around. And I saw Rodney Dangerfield. And he had a bathrobe on. Everybody's in suits and ties and shit. And he comes down in a bathrobe with two blondes, one in each arm. Hey, fellas, how you doing? How you doing? And I went up to him. I said, Rodney, can I get a picture? No pictures, no pictures. I said, all right, all right. And I started to walk away. He said, come on back. I'll tell you a joke instead. I said, all right, what's the joke? He said, the other night, I'm walking down the road. Guy's walking his dog. Dog started licking himself. I said, man, oh man, if I could do that. He said, well, pet him. Maybe he'll let you. That was the joke he told me. And then he asked me if I had any weed. Yeah,
uh,
I didn't give him, I had weed, but I didn't give it to him because he wouldn't take a picture.
yeah, fair enough, right? That
Yeah, I have some other stuff. A buddy of mine ran sound for Rodney. And when he'd get real drunk near the end of his career, he was, and like that night in Beverly Hills, he was definitely crinkled.
mhm.
He had a pretty bad drug and alcohol problem by the end. I find that a lot of comedians talk about alcohol and not drugs so much, but alcohol, that it seems to run hand in hand.
You're hanging out in bars every night,
Yeah, that's true.
right?
You
Before
do
I started
you
doing comedy, I barely drank the last 2 years because I took up cycling. And when you're cycling, you're waking up at 7 in the morning to go
right?
for a ride. You got to be kind of, I don't want a hangover. And then you start doing
Yeah,
comedy, hanging out at bars every night, a couple of drinks here and there. It's a different life.
yeah. Well, and if you're doing construction work, like you said, at 7 in the morning, you can't be too banging shit.
I don't go on the sites as much anymore, but yeah, yeah.
Okay, good, good, good. So, your podcast coming up. Do you want to talk about that? Do you want to tell people? I know you've got a lot planned with that.
Yeah, so what I'm doing on that is it's a little bit different because most comedy podcasts are more about the comedian, the comedy, about a lot of them I listen to, they just talk about drugs and alcohol, like you said.
Right.
Right. So I want to dive more into comedians and their social issues. So
Okay.
the podcast is called Comedians Saving the World.
Okay.
And with each comedian we pick one social issue. Or Brad Ghost that you mentioned, actually, he said, I don't want to save the world. I want him to watch it burn. I said, all right, well, tell me how you want that, how to do that.
Did you have Brad on already? Is it already
No, no, we're
recorded?
planning it. We're doing a show together in a couple of weeks, so we're gonna do the podcast before the show.
That's great. Yeah, Brad's a real character. You
Yeah,
get a chance, watch when him and I did it.
yeah, I'll
He
check that
read he
out.
read one of his books. Yeah, it's a totally different thing for me, because doing this was a dream of mine, to be able to have people on and do one-on-one. And you're right. I like that, I know there's so many podcasts out there and there's so much stuff out there. And I kind of wanted it to be my idea, kind of like what you're doing, is to just have one comedian on and tell me all about yourself and promote whatever you want to promote and do anything you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That and it sounds like you got kind of the same premise, only the social side. And I think some comedians are going to be a little shy to maybe talk about their
Yeah, a
mental.
couple of guys said I don't like to talk about politics in public,
Yeah.
right? But I'm a political person. I like both sides of the coin. I don't care. I mean, there's
Well,
value to everything, right?
well,
So
the old adage was you don't talk about politics or religion. That was what they used to say.
yeah, that's what my dad always says, but I always break the rules. So
I love you. I love you. I love your approach. So
thank you.
you mentioned, and I guess I know the answer already, but I still want to ask it. If you could, you would do full-time comedy the rest of your life.
Yeah, my wife wouldn't like it, but I'd do that.
Well, how do you think that's going to work out?
Yeah. You make it work, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
she used to be a professional ballerina in Cuba.
Oh,
She's from
really?
Cuba. I met her on vacation.
Okay.
So when she moved here, she got into, I mean, now she does interior design, but
Okay.
she's like, oh, I hung out with celebrities and everyone just partied all the time. And I had that life just partying. I'm like, yeah, I'm 40. It's a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was,
Well, I believe this. If you are doing well and successful and doing chasing your dream, I think she'll stand by you. I've never met her, but you seem like a real good guy, real straightforward guy. You don't like you did the one retard bit, which I don't know that you can say that, but now you got me saying it. But
oh yeah,
no,
my one daughter, she's 12. She's like, you can't say that. And my other daughter, I did it for them. And she just burst out laughing. She's 11.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I look at it that you can do
you
anything. It's
watch,
like the jokes I do that are really dark, and
yeah, yeah.
it's
You
just
watched
joke.
the not that roast the other night of Tom Brady?
Yeah,
They said retard on Netflix Live about 10 times.
did they really?
Yeah, so I figure you're okay to say it at least for a little while till people get upset again.
Yeah, I think the biggest news there was what's his name? Jeffrey Ross did a bit
It's
about Robert Kraft and the massage, and
yeah,
Tom stood up.
yeah. That was a good roast though.
Yeah, yeah. I hear Nikki Glazer stole the
Yeah,
show.
rushed.
Yeah, yeah.
Really good.
So are there other comedians, since you brought it up, are there other comedians that you really like that you enjoy watching?
Um, I'm a big fan of Asif Ali. He's an up and coming guy out of the comedy store.
Say it again slower so I can make sure, because what I want to do is, besides putting all your social media links, if
Yep,
you have TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, what all you have, I want to
yep.
make sure that I mention, I'll put your construction company in there. I'll put everything in I can to help promote you.
Sounds good. So Asif Ali,
Okay.
comedy store guy, he's really, really good.
Okay.
I'm just thinking of people who aren't like, super obvious. Jen Brister out of the UK.
Okay.
She's a lesbian comic out of the UK. I've been trying to bring her to Toronto, but she's doing a tour
Okay.
in the States coming up. So her
Right.
agent was said maybe next time. She's got too much time in the States for this trip. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's Mark Trinidad's a local
Mark
Ontario
Trinidad.
comic, yeah. And
Okay.
he blows the doors off every place he walks into.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are you friends with Mark?
Yeah, yeah. He's the one who
Oh,
told me
cool.
that it wasn't the worst first time he'd ever seen.
I got to have him on the show. I'm going to try and contact him.
Yeah, I'll send you his details. He's
Please,
hilarious.
no, ask him if he'd come on. I'd love to have him on.
Uh,
And
he's
like I
from
said, you have my word. I will when you're ready. I'll come over. I'll see what I can do.
Sounds good. Yeah, he's
What I recommend,
yeah,
because the more you drink, the funnier I am, and also the more I drink, the funnier I am. So we could do it later on in the evening. I'll be good in proper pitch. I'll say almost anything.
yeah,
You
I'm the
may
same way. Sounds good to
you
me.
may get banned. Your podcast may be short lived after I'm on it. Your sponsors will pull the plug. Well, I want to make sure I cover everything. I obviously I wish you nothing but the best I pray that you get to do comedy for the rest of your living, as long as you're alive. Because I think right now, and it's funny, you said about you do politics and stuff. Do you do political humor? Do you want to do you have something you can do?
I don't have any political humor right now.
Yeah, I just don't do it. It's like I do a bit, where I say I don't do this, I don't do that, but I love a good rape joke. But, and what the irony is, I don't have any rape jokes.
Right.
I don't have any Holocaust jokes. I don't have any Hitler jokes. I don't have, certain things. Now I've had a couple, like I just did one earlier with a Jewish guy who was doing some Jewish jokes. But man, I just don't think, especially now,
Yeah.
you kiss, or like doing, my sister's married to a black man. If I was to do black jokes, good Lord, you know?
Yeah, well, that's the nice thing. The darker you are skin color wise, the more jokes you're allowed to make these days.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. That is very true.
Mark Trinidad, he's from Trinidad. I think he's a quarter black. He's white, but he's got black features,
Right.
but he's got the Trinidadian accent. So he makes the craziest jokes about all races, but he can get away with it even as a white
Yeah.
guy. He's got
Well,
that.
I think Ricky Gervais said too, and I've said this numerous times on these, and I really like it. That's why I keep repeating it, is that you can joke about anything, but you have to be prepared for the ramifications.
Mhm.
Like a Dave Chappelle who goes out there and does the LGBTQ or STU, that's another one. And early on, I've been doing this 4.5 years. I did some of that stuff just because, when I first heard of the drag queen story hour and some shit, I was like, what the hell are you talking about? You're having people, drag queens, go into the school. I mean, and part of that is the old Archie Bunker in me. Oh, Jesus, there, eat it there, that I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? But now I steer clear of that stuff.
Yeah, sometimes it's just easier, right? I've seen some guys get kicked out of clubs and bars, especially
Really?
some breweries are very PC, and they'll hear somebody say a joke on stage. They'll tell the promoter that that guy can't come back, and
No
they'll
shit.
post online about it, saying, we don't approve of this comic and this content. We apologize and all sorts of nonsense. My favorite quote, you were talking about Ricky Gervais, is Anthony Jeselnik's quote from a
Right?
couple
Go ahead.
months ago on his podcast. He said, "It's not about making a dirty joke or a dark joke. It's about getting away with it."
Yeah.
He's like, if you're funny enough, the joke's good enough, people aren't going to get mad about it. But if you just say something stupid, you just come off like a prick.
Well, what I hear, and again, I don't know that much. I really don't. I'm learning as I'm going along because I've been blessed to have some great comedians on already, and I hope to have even more on. But you have to get them from the get go,
Yeah,
meaning that when you step up and you say hello, you have to get the audience right there to go with you. And if they go with you and they start believing in you, then you can push the envelope a little bit. And they trust you because they believe, oh, he's gonna tie it up with a nice little bow and make it funny.
yeah, yeah.
But it's a craft. It's something I've been doing 4.5 years, and I'm learning every day.
Yes, sir. Do you find it's a big difference from the music industry to the comedy industry? There are a lot of similarities.
Well, the weirdest thing for me, honestly, Zahan, is I always promoted. I promoted Whitney Houston. I promoted Dave Matthews. I promoted Cheap Trick. I promoted ZZ Top. I was always pushing the Verve Pipe or whoever,
Yeah,
pushing someone. Now it's promoting myself, and it's just kind of weird. It's like watching these back. I have to edit them. And so I'll be honest, by the time I get done, the one that aired today at noon, the preview, and then like with you and I'll do a preview the one day. It'll probably be 2 weeks from now. And then the next night, your full interview will go.
yeah.
I probably won't watch it just because I've already seen it. I love the spontaneity of two people just meeting and us having some fun. But, it's just one of those things. Plus, I don't like to watch myself that much.
Nobody does. I
Yeah.
just I was just editing the first podcast for my series yesterday, and it's tough to hear my voice, right? Your
It's
own voice.
time consuming.
Weird.
Yeah. It's time consuming too.
Yeah.
Well, look, man, I want to make sure we cover everything, but I also want to try and get you your comedy minute from you.
Sure.
So do we have everything? I know I mentioned you've got the Laughs on the Lake coming up June 13th, which hopefully I'll get this up. Well, I definitely will get it up before June 13th. And anything else you want, mention to the folks?
You could follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Zahan K at comedy. I'm on both of
Okay.
those. Not on anything else yet?
Do you have a YouTube channel set up for the new podcast?
It's under Funny People CA so
And
far. I haven't.
that's your that because I'll include that.
Yeah,
That's your
Funny
that's
People
your YouTube
CA is my
channel.
promo company for my show.
Okay, cool. It's time for your comedy minute with Zahan Khursigara. Zahan, go ahead.
So what I've been loving right now is the last 3 months I've really got into Kill Tony,
Right?
right? And
A lot of people talk about Kill Tony. I watched some of them.
yeah, sometimes I hate it. I mean, I can't
Okay.
stop watching, but it's an addictive podcast, right?
Right.
And the roast the other night, the roast of Tom Brady, Tony Hinchcliffe was on there.
I
And
saw that.
yeah, and that roast he did of Burt Kreischer, where he didn't say, I don't think he even said the word black, but he mentioned so many like black things about, and then tied it into Bert's liver, right? It was just a perfect bounce, like boom, 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 the cadence and everything. It was beautiful. I was falling off my chair laughing
That
because
was
I love a tight set with lots of jokes in it.
right.
So that's the kind of thing that just makes me go crazy.
Okay. Well, let's go for a second one if we can. Do you have a story about something that happened to you that you could share?
Something happened to
We're
me.
looking for dirt now. We're looking for the dirt, the good stuff.
I've lost
or
stories.
maybe a friend. Like, I'll give you an example. I
Yeah.
had Trevor Klumpner on, and he told me one night he ate too many mushrooms and he climbed up in his neighbor's tree. So you got something like that?
Well,
No, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Just make it up. I don't care. At this point, what the hell do I care?
I'll tell you a story that I kept trying to use as a bit, but for some reason it just never hit.
All right.
Hilarious.
All right.
All right. So when I was younger, when I was in college, me and my buddies would go out and we would use accents to pick up girls.
Right.
Right. So we'd usually go with the Scottish accent because it's just the most fun at a bar.
Okay.
One night, me and my buddy Gary. So Gary and I were at the pub, right? And Gary, when they were talking to some girls, and Gary says to this girl, "Hey, where are you from?" She said she's from Sweden. And she goes to Gary, "Where are you from?" He goes, "Scotland." And she said, "What part of Scotland?" Fucking Gary says, "Ireland." Oh, sorry. He says, "Dublin." And then, and then I say to people, well, not only did we realize that day that Canadian
Dublin.
is sexy, we found out that we need a better geography system in our
Yeah.
education. Yeah, we did not get laid that night, but
Yeah. But you do a great accent. That's wonderful.
my first set when I did that class, I did 5 minutes of just going through different accents.
Really?
It's tough to go from
That's
accent
cool.
to accent to accent. Oh, I don't do it anymore just because it's too much work, and
Yeah.
I think it's a bit hacky sometimes nowadays to do that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, cool. Well, listen, hang out for a second. I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you so much for being here. And if you want, I'll check in with you in a couple months. We'll see how you're doing.
sounds great. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Hang tight for a second.
Here.